It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a very special Friday. The last Friday before New Hampshire. How will the polls change between... Trump's the nominee. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. Trump is the nominee. My gosh. Here are the counties to watch in New Hampshire. What are there, 2 counties in New Hampshire? Maybe 3.
Don't exaggerate. It's not that many.
We don't want to be accused of exaggerating the number. Hyperbole.
We have nothing against New Hampshire.
No, we don't. It's just, it's not going to matter. You can give it to Nikki Haley. He could concede right now to her, and he'll still be the nominee. That's the way it's going to go down.
Well, I'll tell you, though, I mean, for the general election, I look at, and he put it out last night, the thing Trump put out on True Social. He does everything he possibly can to try to lose an election.
Yeah.
Did you notice? No one defended him on that.
Yeah.
I didn't see anyone.
On the immunity thing?
On the immunity thing.
Yeah,
I went through social media. I couldn't find any Trump supporter. They just ignored it. It's like, okay, he's off the deep end today. You don't have, there is no president. Number one, there is no president. It's almost as if he was saying, I wish this would be the way that it is.
Yeah, right.
But then when he followed that up by saying, well, no, obviously Obama, when, he fired some missiles and there were civilian casualties, I don't know whether he was referring to Yemen or Afghanistan, whatever, he wasn't charged. So he is bringing in, I think, the fact that he's saying the Constitution gives the president full immunity. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
Now, the president, when he is now, and here's the thing, his focus should be on the charges against him that are bogus.
Yeah,
because that's where it is.
Yeah.
For him to come out and start saying a president, has full immunity.
Mm-hmm. And
I wasn't going to say that until I saw the fact that he came out afterwards and said, well, Obama had it with, no, that's in a war.
Yeah, right.
That's basically if you're in a war and there are civilian casualties, that's completely different than if you're accused of committing a crime in your home country.
Right.
Completely different ballgame.
Right.
It's like a couple weeks ago when he was saying, well, he can't be prosecuted because the Constitution states that you must be impeached and removed from office. He was trying to make the point before you are criminally charged. Well, that's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to be. There is nothing in the Constitution that says it. And this is a thing where he goes off, he starts, nothing good ever happens after midnight, and he put that on True Social at 1 a.m. In all capital letters. Democrats will use that against him in the general election. They'll take everything that he puts on Truth Social.
They're they're already trying to build the fear. He's going to, if he thinks he has full immunity, imagine what he'll do.
Right. That this backs the point that he wishes to be a dictator. Now, I understand where Trump's coming from. He's furious with all this, everything that's gone on since the very beginning.
Yeah, sure.
He is a victim of whatever you wish to call it, I guess you could say deep state in a way because of what the intelligence people did with the Hunter Biden laptop. But if you go from Hillary Clinton on, the Democrat, Hillary Clinton with the Russia collusion was a complete hoax. Yeah. Never happened.
Right.
The only people that colluded with the Russians were the Democrats. But this is why we have stated you've got to be crystal clear when you do things. And I read that yesterday and went, okay, he's got a death wish. As my dad always calls it a death wish. And that's people that can succeed on an argument or in a position and then just do something stupid. And him writing that was stupid. And you could tell it because no one, I didn't see any. I scoured social media yesterday to see if any of his supporters backed him on it, and everybody was just quiet because they know it's a load of horse manure. No president has full immunity to do anything that they wish to do.
And you can't set it up to where you're giving the Democrats basically what they've been trying to build. You're giving them the real version of what they've been trying to build against you. It's the only thing they have against him is to lie, except now it's based on his own words and they can quote him.
Right, and when he served for 4 years, there was no indication that he had dictatorial tendencies whatever.
No.
Whatsoever, excuse me. None at all. And so then they come out with it, and it's like, why are you helping the Democrats?
No, I mean, they don't have a campaign because they can't defend Joe Biden. They can't promote Joe Biden in a positive way as much as they try. And they've been trying to do this over-the-top fear-mongering, and you're building it for them.
Right.
You're right. You're writing their campaign.
Yeah. It's almost as if you're in collusion with them. I mean, that's how
collusion. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how ridiculous. Because the Democrats, he wants to be a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. It's like, it's ridiculous. I have full immunity. You can basically do anything that's out of bounds, and it's like, no, it's not how it works. You may wish it to be that way, and since the Constitution doesn't back it, and you state that you should be able to get away with anything, well, then the Democrats are going to come back and say, see, he wants to be a dictator.
Right.
And I know where it comes from him. It comes from the frustration of being set up and rogue prosecutors going after him. By the way, the Fanni Willis thing could blow up.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
You saw the Georgia judge. Because it's more than just the fact that she hired her boyfriend and everything and paid him well. It's the fact that she did something which the charges are bogus. The RICO charges are just ridiculous in Georgia, and she set up this thing where she could enrich her boyfriend and herself to get a lot of money that they could do the things that they wish to, and do it on something that was politically popular that she probably believed nobody would catch because she was going after Trump.
Right.
And so it's like, well, wait a minute. Did you go? And this is something that he could use on appeal if anything ever happened.
Yeah, right.
She only did this to enrich herself.
Right.
What was the motivation there?
Right.
So we'll get to that story coming up. But it's just one of those times where you shake your head and you just say, at times, Trump has a death wish. He wishes, you look at it and you go, does he really wish not to win?
Yeah.
Why is he helping the Democrats in a bogus argument that they're making that is not based on any truth of when he actually served as president of the United States?
Right.
In fact, it was just the opposite.
Yeah.
He was always working through the system, and we talked about even the what do they call it when they the terrorist designation where people couldn't come in from particular countries, which actually came from the Obama administration. And you had these liberal judges came in and say, no, people can come in, that Trump doesn't have the authority to do that. And we go, actually, he has the authority to do that.
Yeah, travel ban.
The travel ban, right. And the travel ban and the suggestion came from the Obama administration. And as we pointed out, it was those judges, the activist judges, that had gone beyond, what their constitutional responsibilities or authority is.
Yeah, right.
And so you shake your head because this one is just so bizarre because they've been pounding the last couple of weeks. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. And he basically puts out something on Truth Social that says, I wish to be a dictator.
Right.
Now, I didn't say that, but by saying I have full immunity to do, I should have full immunity, every president, to do whatever they want. Well, that's not the case.
No.
It's never been the case.
No, never. And, those are the things that, again, You don't need to do because they have nothing, and then you hand them something.
Yeah.
They have
Nothing.
nothing working in their favor.
No, they don't.
Don't put into the mind of the independent voter that, because that's what the Democrats will do. They'll take this, they'll leverage it, put it into the mind of the independent voter. Look what he's going to do.
Right.
Whoopi was going over the top, but now they've got something. No. His own words.
Right.
Imagine what he might do if he believes this.
Right.
That's trouble. And with independents right now, I really think, and I don't know, maybe it's been the case, but I really think right now independents could be that fickle. Enough independents could be that fickle.
Well, they are.
Where that.
Well, they are right now. If you look at the polling for the general election,
that's what I mean.
Because based on the when you look at the polling on the issues, and roughly on, I would say the vast majority of the top issues out there, you have 65 to 70% of Americans that agree with you,
mm-hmm.
and you may be beating Biden in the general in the polling by 2 points or 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a huge number of independents in there that say we agree with you, but we won't vote for you.
Right.
Because the Republicans that are cheering over the fact of, look at this, look, Trump is up, Trump is up, Trump is up. It's like, you're a long way. The general election has not started yet. And that lead of 2 or 3 points means nothing.
2 or 3 points is still, in my mind, 20 points behind. And I've been saying for years, you always have to run as if you're 20 points behind. If he had 5 or 7 points. Look, the polls may be wrong in his favor. You don't assume that. And you won't know that. Nobody will until November 6th or of 2025 when they're finished counting the votes. A year after Election Day. Those...
I'm not going to retire until all the votes are in.
Exactly.
I'll be here till 80.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you shake your head at times with Trump and you say, why is he helping that? Because that helped the Democrats, and they will use that in the general election.
Right. Well, here's the thing.
And the timing, too, by the way.
Yeah,
the timing,
right.
Because it's been the last 2 weeks. He wants to be a dictator. He'll be a dictator. He'll be a dictator. People will disappear. He'll be a dictator. He'll be a dictator. And it's almost like right on cue.
Here, let me give you a gift.
Right. Here's your gift, Democrats.
Because it's not the thing about him coming in saying, I'll only be a dictator on the first day. That was a joke about executive orders and the things that he wants to do on the first day. Like Biden did. And like a lot of presidents do, but it was a joke. This wasn't a joke.
No.
And that's it. If you build enough belief in the minds of independents that he believes that, and that if he believes that, then he would act on that, because if he wins, he would no longer be worried about any future elections, then you've got independents who jump off.
Well, the thing is, he wouldn't act on it because you can't get away.
He doesn't have the
It's like the whole thing that democracy is, disappearing, or the constitutional republic.
But
it actually isn't disappearing, and nobody can commit murder as the president of the United States.
But
remember, Hillary was not president. Okay, I had to say it. Nobody can commit murder as president of the United States and get away with it. No president has full immunity.
Right. Well, no. Here's the.
I had to. Right?
I have an Epstein joke that I can't tell.
Okay.
Something about the documents being found hung in a prison cell. Anyway, so here's the thing. I guess I did tell it. The problem with it is that most fear is, 99% or mostly, maybe we won't put a number to it, it's mostly unfounded. And that's all you have to do is build a fear. imagine what he would do. And the independent could look at that and go, okay, he may not commit murder, but if he believes he has immunity, what might he do here, or here? And all of a sudden, it's just firing off in their mind.
Right.
And all you have to do, it's the whole shadow of a doubt thing, when you're trying to convince a jury, right? Now, you just got to create a little bit of doubt. Well,
yep.
Politically, you just got to create a little bit of doubt, which, by the way, is the only thing the Democrats have been doing all along.
Well, I think
is building a big cloud over his head.
Right.
They did it with the whole, Russian collusion thing. They've done it all along. They built these little clouds over his head because they had nothing on him. Don't give them something.
Well, he knew he did wrong after.
Right.
But because afterwards when he came out and goes, well, it's just like when Obama, shot cruise missiles and civilians were killed.
Right.
And I went, okay, he knows he blew it.
Well, and so now
he knows he
right.
Yeah.
So now do you have to spend too much time at rallies between now and November 5th, explaining that, walking that back, and you shouldn't have to do that ever. Real simple. We're going to fix the economy.
Yeah.
We're going to fix the border. We're going to bring back your spending power. We're going to make sure that when you go to bed at night, you don't have to worry about whether you're going to pay the bills versus whether you're going to buy groceries for your kids. We're going to do that. It's not hard right now. It's easy. Joe Biden has made things so bad. I mean, it couldn't be easier right now to campaign.
86690 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling, harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives. An extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the impeachment hearings for Mayorkas were going on yesterday. We will get to that. House passes a continuing resolution averting a shutdown again until March. Things haven't changed since McCarthy was there, huh?
All the way to March, Gary. I mean, that's like weeks from now. In March. Okay, but we're going to extend it again, but only till April. Just
we said this. I
madness.
mean, didn't take rocket scientists to figure this out. That when you had those 8 saying that McCarthy, had to go, we said nothing's going to change if McCarthy goes.
Right.
And what has happened? Nothing has changed.
Nope.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. All right, I want to play this audio. We were pounding on Representative Dan Goldman yesterday, and I believe a couple of times this week, because this guy's he's a moron. He really is. He was this was at the Mayorkas impeachment hearings yesterday, and one of the witnesses was Josephine Dunn, the mother of a woman who died because of fentanyl overdose. And she's been down to the border and paying attention to what's been going on down there because of it. She's an angel mom, as they call her. Yeah. And I want to play this because Goldman thinks he's going to get into an argument with her and then stops because he started asking questions, and then he never asked a question again.
Yeah.
After she responded to him.
Yeah.
Never. He just filibustered the entire time afterwards. Goldman couldn't even make his points with her because he was saying, he says, well, don't you think that, and I'll play it here in a second, but don't you think that if there were more Border Patrol agents and law enforcement down there that it would work? And she goes, no, because the Border Patrol isn't doing their job.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. They're not doing their job. They're making sandwiches. Yeah. You know, they're not doing their job. They're not patrolling the border. They're not keeping people from coming into the country. And then he just goes on and well, in appropriations bill, there were 300 Border Patrol agents. Just ignores what she says and then goes on for like the next. Well, I'm not going to play the whole thing. We listened to it for like 5 minutes, just filibustering her, and never went back and asked her another question because he couldn't.
You can't.
Let's play this part here. Here we go.
Because I assume, Ms. Dunn, you would agree, would you not, that it would help to stop the fentanyl trade and fentanyl trafficking from coming into this country if we had more law enforcement officers at the border and more resources and technology to stop the fentanyl from coming in? Do you agree with that?
I disagree with that because Border Patrol is now being used to make sandwiches and to screen people and let them into our country.
Okay, well, so
I disagree with you.
So you're saying that you're upset because the Border Patrol is not doing is making.
By the way, he's filibustering here. He's basically repeating the thing. Yeah. So what's by the way, this is another form of gaslighting.
Yeah.
Because so what you're saying is you're saying since what is it, making sandwiches and like he doesn't know that the Border Patrol isn't doing their job.
Right.
Because they've been told not to do their job. I want to make this clear.
Right.
Let's continue.
Sandwiches, I think you said. So you don't think it would be helpful to have more Border Patrol officers who are charged with stopping the fentanyl trade?
I would like the Border Patrol to be able to do the job that they were hired to do.
Well,
every Border Patrol officer that I have spoken to has told me that their hands are tied by this administration and Mr. Mayorkas. I've been to the border, sir. Have you? Have you?
Excuse me. I'm asking the question.
I'm just wondering.
And the problem with that is that in Congress, this Congress, we have interviewed 9 senior officials under DHS in a variety of different capacities. Every single one of them has said that it would be helpful to provide more resources.
And then he just goes on. Because, if you're going to use the resources to actually close the border.
Yeah.
But that's not what they want to do the resources on. And the American public knows it, by the way.
Right.
I saw the latest polling. It's up to 70% now of Americans. On all the major issues out there, it's 65 to 70% really of Americans that look at what the Biden administration is doing and just say it's ridiculous. And Goldman's still trying to sell this entire thing that, earlier, Jackie Heinrich of Fox News got to Karine Jean-Pierre the other day saying it's not true. Because it was like, Republicans don't want Border Patrol agents. Like, that's not true. That isn't true at all. That isn't what was happening. And the Washington Post gave the Biden administration 3 Pinocchios on it. And if the Republicans don't want the Border Patrol, it means they don't want to allocate money to hire Border Patrol agents who won't be Border Patrols.
Right.
And every single Democrat listening right now knows that. You know that. Why do Democrats, why does Goldman, why do they attempt to paint a different story from what it actually is at the border? Why won't Representative Goldman, Karine Jean-Pierre, Biden, Mayorkas, why won't any of them tell you the truth about what they're doing at the border?
Because the truth is, they want people coming through as fast as possible.
Yep.
They want them here as fast as possible.
And by the way, I stopped it there because he doesn't ask her any questions anymore. He just goes on to filibuster. And then in this appropriations bill, 300 Border Patrol agents ignores what she said. Well, it doesn't matter whether
because you can't debate her.
Right.
There is no debating her. There's no debating this situation. The only thing you can do is lie. The only thing you can do is lie. And bringing up fentanyl, are you kidding me? Your side is making it, the cartels have it easier now than they've ever had it. They own I-35 in Texas. They own it. You won't see it, but they control it. That's the main artery that runs right through the middle of our nation. And in trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking, all of it, it's the center of their business. They own it. They're not worried about getting across the border anymore. That part is easy.
Yeah.
And now they're here. And we allow idiots like this to filibuster in a situation that we can change if we would just change our own political will as a nation.
By the way, when he said, I'm asking the questions, well, she's trying to get context because you're making all these claims. Have you been down to the border? Do you actually know what's going on?
Right.
And he didn't say yes.
No, he didn't. No, he would have been. And of course, they would have. If the answer was yes, he would have. Yes, I have. No, they won't go there.
But on the border, which is pure chaos down there, our question to any Democratic voter is, are you upset about what the Democrats are doing?
Right.
Are you upset about what your party is doing?
You should be.
Can you at least say, if you're a Democrat, well, I don't like Trump, but what my party is doing is an abomination.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
Can you at least say that? Can you look at the actual issues at hand and say, I disagree with what my party's doing, and I've been in contact with my representative and telling them that I've always been a Democrat and I wish to always stay a Democrat, but you're making it so hard for me. I can't vote for Trump. He's unacceptable, but what you people are doing is destroying this nation. Democrats, can you do that at least? Or are you just going to sit there and be quiet?
Yeah.
And keep continuing to vote for people that on the issues do the exact opposite of what you believe they should be doing. Because I know Democrats listening right now do not agree what's going on at the border.
No, they don't.
They do not.
They don't. They don't agree with the fentanyl deaths. They don't agree with people coming here and staying here. They don't agree with that. They don't. We're, the conversation about legal immigration, which, by the way, we have to remind people, on the day that Jim Acosta got kicked out of the media room, that's exactly, in fact, in that moment, leading up to that moment, what President Trump was promoting, more legal immigration than President Trump.
By the way, we're not asking any Democrat to do anything that we don't do because we criticize the Republican Party. We criticize Republican candidates. And I don't know who we haven't criticized on the Republican side. And we criticize them quite harshly when they don't agree with what we're doing, with what we wish them to do.
Right.
And we'll tell you, yeah, it's a binary choice. I still got to vote for them, but I'm disgusted with what they're doing here, 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 here. And we don't care who it is, and we've always been that way, because as an American, you should have the passion of your beliefs, and if you're going to vote and continue to vote for a party, you should let that party know when they're not doing what you wish them to do.
Well, it's not a beauty pageant. It's not a popularity contest. Hey, my guy won, my gal won, I won on election night, and it's over. No. I sent them there to do a job, to do my bidding. And when they step out of line from that, I'm going to call them to the carpet. I don't care who they are. Or you look at Barry Weiss. Trump was right.
Yeah.
You know what it takes for someone who at one point was a liberal journalist, very liberal journalist.
Very liberal, yes.
And she was. And she looks at reality. And when she wrote that, that's not a small thing, by the way.
No,
I'm sure
not.
That made her a target with other, activists, maybe not so much the journalists, but the other liberal activists out there that, want to go after you if you have any dissent whatsoever, if you ask any questions.
Well, look at Matt Taibbi.
Yeah.
The day he testified before Congress.
They were at his door.
Lifelong liberal. The IRS is at his door.
At his door.
That was no coincidence.
It's like something out of a movie.
I know.
Not a letter. They were on his porch. And this is the reality. If you vote a certain way from this point on, you are taking ownership. The radical behavior, if you don't call your own party out, you have to make exceptions. You can still vote Democrat if you find candidates that aren't doing the radical things. I don't know who those 2 or 3 people might be.
Could be Fetterman.
Liz, I was going to say Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Fetterman. Could be Fetterman. After all that, but here's the thing, and Fetterman, everything he got hit with. Yeah, but you guys are radical. This is radical.
Yeah, on the border, he pounded them on the border. He said, "Close the border."
It's insane what's going on right now, and it's insane that we allow it, and that's how it happens. And it's allowed to happen.
Right. And it's insane that somebody like Dan Goldman does what he does, defend the indefensible.
Yeah, right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More audio coming up on the Mayorkas impeachment hearings and just on the border, because there's been hearings all this week. There's just tons of audio still to play today. We've got Hunter Biden is scheduled now for his deposition. It's a month from now.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. What else? There was something else. Can't think of what it was.
The judge with the prosecutor in Georgia.
Yeah.
More on that coming up. Which is about the same time, as Hunter's thing, mid-February, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting week.
No,
that could be some huge wins for Trump and the GOP that week. We'll see what happens with the judge and where it goes from there. But that thing with in Georgia is just absolutely insane. When you think about it, there's
By the way, there's no defense of it. Nobody has tried to defend it.
No one has.
No, you can't.
It's just turned into a real soup show.
But it's whether it'll blow up the entire case because, number one, the RICO case is ridiculous.
Right.
There is no RICO case here.
Right.
And the fact that she did that and made it a RICO case made it a much bigger case that, she was able to hire and enrich her boyfriend and herself because that's what you're doing.
Right.
And so the whole point is, all right, you're going after, this is a big case where you were able to hire your boyfriend who wasn't qualified to do this.
Right. Never tried a case anywhere near this.
You're not qualified to do this, and you're making a ton of money off of going after Trump.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
My question is, if she's kicked off the case, will there be another prosecutor that actually wants this?
That's what I'm wondering, too.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Just, I realize we actually never went over the particulars about the Mayorkas impeachment hearings and the Republicans' goal, at least stated goal, of wanting to impeach him. Yeah. And you heard Democrats yesterday continue to say, you only impeach for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Well, that ended with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Democrats can't complain about that because that ended. And as we said, you can impeach over anything. You can impeach and remove from office a politically unpopular president. People may scream that it's unconstitutional to do so, as, for example, Jonathan Turley did for both of Trump's impeachments. And Jonathan Turley, again, a constitutional law professor who was a Democrat, that said there's no high crime or misdemeanor here.
Right.
You haven't made the case. It didn't matter to Democrats. So just like, remember the filibuster rule? Well, when the Democrats decided to cut that out, well, that's one of the reasons why there's a majority originalist, constructionist judges on the Supreme Court.
Right.
Because when one party does it, you give permission politically for the next party to do that, and it's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, you open the door
here.
for eternity.
Right.
It's not going to change.
Because the argument is from the Democrats right now is that he's performing his duties. These are official duties. You may not agree with what he's doing, but he hasn't committed a crime. There is no crime because it's his official, duty, which is why the whole thing with, as we talked about with Trump, saying you get immunity from everything. No, you don't. You get immunity from the things that you do that are your responsibility, whatever your position is. Now, you can be completely inept on it. For example, Biden lied about what the generals told him to do in Afghanistan. He lied to the American public about it. He wasn't impeached for that.
Right.
Even though it's wrong, it's immoral. You can say emotionally it's treasonous, but he didn't break any law. And so when you look at right now what the Republicans are looking to do with the impeachment hearings for Biden, it's about a high crime.
Yeah.
Investigating whether bribery took place, which was one of the original crimes that the Founding Fathers were looking at to get rid of somebody in political office, whether it's a judge taking a bribe, a president taking a bribe, whatever. But the Democrats, when it comes to the presidency, changed that with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
When they impeached him.
Yeah.
When they impeached him twice.
Right.
Couldn't get the votes in the House to remove him from office.
Or in the Senate.
What'd I say?
House.
Oh, thank you. Hey, nobody knows the difference anyway. Right? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Separation of powers, nobody understands.
Whatever.
Bicameral legislature. That is just
Yeah. 3 branches of government, 4 branches, whatever it takes.
Stop holding me to such a high standard of accuracy. How dare you?
That's when you know it's getting bad. Eric and Gary are just giving up.
Nah.
Nope.
No, not going to. No.
Never.
No, the more it seems like everything's going to hell, the more I'll always fight. You know.
I've never had so much energy for something, all of the things that I believe in my life. And it's not just because I'm old. It's not just because, you and I have been doing this collectively for 80 years, a combined 80 years. It's because we are at a critical point, and I honestly believe that.
Well, and I know you believe the same I do. I owe future generations.
No doubt. No doubt.
And I owe future generations because I owe past generations that I can't pay back.
So one of our listeners made the point that, the younger generation, in many ways they're getting screwed.
Yeah.
You look at it and you can talk about their attitude about, quiet quitting and this and that and all of this. But also, even within that, you can look at, okay, what is a learned behavior? Because so many things have changed what I believe is the core instinct of survival. You and I have talked about it. We talked about it surrounding Hurricane Katrina. When you've been warned for days and days and days, you still don't get out of the way of the storm. And we've seen that happen with, a number of natural disasters that have days worth, hurricanes that have days worth of warnings. And
I think what we said was, to us symbolically, because that would have been 2005, right?
Yeah. Yeah. August 2005, yeah.
So I've been in that wasn't even half through my talk radio career at that point, because it'd been 16 years at that point, and so now it's been 19. Wow.
Yeah.
19 years.
I know.
But that we always said that was symbolically to us the point in the United States where, and this was where you had able-bodied people, remember, outside the Superdome, and and they just they didn't leave, and there was plenty of warning to leave. And as we said, you have a Cat 5 coming in. I said you put water in a backpack and you start walking,
right?
Because you've got 3 days and you can walk 20 miles inland in that 3 days, and you're alive. And we said that's when that was the symbolic victory of liberalism, because when the pathology of dependency overtakes your instinct for survival, liberalism has won.
Yeah, and then it was frustrating to watch.
It was,
and you look at and I do believe it's the reprogramming of our instinct for some people with the horrible response to COVID and shutting things down for so long, and then paying people, in some cases, more to stay home than they were making at their job. But even then, even if you're not paying them more to stay home, this idea of working from home changed the instinct of, and you drove fear into the minds of people where they thought, well, I don't know if I ever want to be in the pattern of leaving my home on a regular basis again. There are some people that are still in that mode.
The Howard Stern syndrome.
Exactly. For those that don't know, he said at one point he had not been out, and it was a long time.
Oh, I think he only went out once because
Yeah.
he got COVID a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he had stated, I think he's only been out once or twice.
Yeah.
He's been a hermit in his house. Think about the paranoia.
Yeah.
Of that.
Right.
The absolute paranoia of somebody who's in radio, which means you gamble when you're in radio. You gamble with your entire career.
Right.
Your entire life you gamble when you choose this
Well,
profession.
of all the people that took chances in their career,
I know.
It's Howard Stern.
But getting back to these two things here, the impeachment, understand that Republicans don't believe that Mayorkas is going to be removed from office.
Yeah, right.
That's not the goal. The goal is to present over and over again to the American people that already agree with you, close to 70%, that the border is insane and Biden is to blame. It is to put everybody on record as stating what's going on. We're Republicans. What's going on is terrible. Look at the votes of every single Democrat.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be.
Right.
That's what it's going to be about. That, I believe, is the goal there. The same thing, there was some talk earlier this week. Maybe it started late last week about, well, the Republicans, are they going to reissue a subpoena, which they didn't do. Mm-hmm. But are they going to reissue a subpoena? Do they really want to impeach the president? Where is the focus? And this is more coming from the right. I'm thinking, you people need to get a clue, because I don't believe that the Republicans wish to attempt to impeach the president.
No.
Through Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
That's not the goal. And when they say they're not going to come out and say, no, we're not going to impeach him, because they know part of their base wishes to impeach and remove from office, you're not going to be able to, unless it's a fact-finding mission, but it's also a political exercise to drip, 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 drip. I think Republicans are happy. Oh, okay, we got another month. Thank you, Hunter, for holding this up another month, that we can continue talking about it, continue to get more subpoenas, continue to get more bank records, continue to do it, because this is the Republicans' plan over the next 8 months, 9 months to 10 months to keep this in the news every single day.
Yeah.
And if Hunter Biden, if they sit there and go, well, he wouldn't answer any questions, he took the fifth from the beginning, that's okay with them.
Yeah.
It stretches it out more.
Right.
And the president can't win on that issue. There's nothing that they've been able to do. So these are really political exercises in attempting to win an election is what it is. Not that it's immoral what they're doing at all. Nothing's immoral by holding an impeachment inquiry, but the screaming is, if you're holding an impeachment inquiry, then you plan on impeaching. Republicans say, well, that's not the goal. This is a fact-finding mission. It's a fact-finding mission, but it's also a way to officially get the subpoenas, more information, and keep this in the news all the way up to Election Day.
Right.
I don't believe that they will impeach. I don't believe that, and even if they did, he would not be removed from office, and that would be viewed as a failure on the Republicans, and they don't want to do it. And they don't want to actually impeach, because I believe part of the mindset is, if you impeach, it'll blow up back in your face, and you don't need to do it. All you need to do is keep getting more information about the corruption of the Biden family.
Yeah. No, I think that's I think that's the case. Look, it could rise to the point of Biden feeling pressure to step down.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I'm not saying that if you get that you may not get to the point where you have enough evidence where it's like, well, this is obvious, and the American public is up 85%, that he needs to be impeached, because then politically that would be advantageous to you.
Because then
you would do that.
Then it would start looking like you would have the votes in the Senate, and then we're back at Nixon and Biden having to make a decision.
But nothing's going in your direction, and then this week it comes out that and we knew it already. We all knew it. But they took away the last argument that the Democrats were still making a couple of weeks ago. It was Goldman that was making it again.
Yeah.
Making the case that, well, no, they're the laptop, might have been manipulated by Giuliani.
Yeah.
And he said, there's evidence.
Mm-hmm.
There's the evidence. There is no evidence.
Evidence.
Goldman was lying to the American public on it,
right.
as he does constantly. I mean, he's a much of a pathological liar as Biden is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, well, now they've dropped that one. They can't use that one.
Right.
I just wonder what it's like to be somebody like Goldman and get defeated day in and day out. Every argument you make. Does that get frustrating?
It must. Well, here's my question. What about the other members of his party going, what are you doing? There's got to be
but they're
something in the hallway.
They believe the same arguments.
It's just mind-boggling.
No, I don't know. Do you know any Democrat that's saying, look, there's serious stuff here with Joe Biden and his son?
No.
And what happened here and everything else. This is absolutely, when you talk about money laundering and everything else, there's no reason to do what the family did. Not one Democrat has said that. And it's obvious that in any investigation, if you saw this, that's where you'd be led going, is the entire family corrupt?
Well, but it likely is the case that, all right, you pick your team, your fighters, basically. And, because they're on committees, they're ranking members on committees, Goldman, Swalwell, those are going to be your fight. You guys do all of the
pit bulls.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to have to do all the fighting on this. And we'll just look the other way. But they're doing a horrible job.
I know. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets, percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, it was I thought a really interesting week, and the Republicans. I think there was a poll out there that showed. I got to find it here. That was on that was stating that Republicans need to go after this immigration thing big time because it's roughly 70% of Americans look at what's going on and say, this is just unacceptable. Here it is. The Signal poll. Republicans should tap into voter anger over illegal immigration. Yeah. Republican candidates should recognize that 70% of swing voting independents strongly or somewhat favor the deportation of illegal migrants, according to a poll by Signal released on Tuesday of this week. The new national data shows just how voters view an unsecure border and the subsequent illegal immigration as a crisis, one that they believe is not being addressed by the Biden administration. Not being addressed, it's being caused by the Biden administration. And by the way, we'll get to there was a hearing on the border and immigration law with former acting ICE Director Tom Homan. We played some of the audio yesterday. There's a great audio of his opening remarks where he goes through it because he's been working for the Border Patrol since 1985.
Yeah.
6 presidents.
Yeah.
And he said even Obama didn't do what Biden did. He goes, this is calculated.
And we've heard that before
right.
from other long-term border agents and high-ranking officials in the Border Patrol.
And this is why we started out the show saying the Democrats are, we didn't start out, but in the first half hour, Democrats, Goldman, for example, is attempting to defend the indefensible. They can't do it.
Right.
The American public knows it. And when you've got 70% of independents,
yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's who you're trying to convince.
Yeah.
Election time.
And that's it. You win this all day long. And not only do you win it for the election, more importantly, you win it to get something done about what's going on, to fix it. You need to act on it.
The Bonus Show.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, also happening this week, former acting ICE director Tom Homan testified before the House Oversight Committee on U.S. immigration law. We never got a chance to play his opening statement yesterday. We played a lot of audio from him, but not his opening statement where he lays out everything, and this is really pure greatness.
I started my career in immigration enforcement in 1984 as a Border Patrol agent. I've worked for 6 presidents, up to Donald Trump. Every president I've ever worked for took some steps to secure the border because they understood you can't have strong national security if you don't have border security. But President Biden is the first president in history of this nation that I know of who came in office and unsecured the border on purpose. And even President Obama gave me the Presidential Rank Award, highest award available. Because what was I doing at the time? I was locating and deporting people that are in the country illegally. So we went for the most secure border of my lifetime. And it's not just my opinion. I've done this for 34 years. Anybody can go to cbp.gov and look at the data. We handed this administration the most secure border in my lifetime. And within months, we went from the most secure border to historic illegal immigration, numbers we've never seen before. And it's not because it's seasonal. It's not because of climate change. It's not because of Trump. This is by design. We already heard about some of these people are coming because of economic reason or natural disasters. The bottom line is when you claim asylum, you must be escaping fear and persecution from your home government because of your race, religion, and political affiliation or membership in a particular social group. That is not the fact. If you look at immigration court data over the last 10 years, you'll see that nearly 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum at the border never get relief from U.S. courts that simply don't qualify. But they're coming and staying because of Biden's promises. I wrote an op-ed 6 months before the election. I said, President Biden becomes president, we'll lose the border, based on the promises he was making during the campaign. And he's kept those promises. Right now, we have record numbers of illegal aliens coming across the border. Catch and release is rampant. Right now, Secretary Mayorkas already said 85% of everybody coming to the border is being released in the country. They're not being detained. And why are they being detained? Because of 2 reasons. Number one, because he knows, like I do, that vast majority of these people will be ordered removed 5, 6, 7 years down the road, maybe 10. He also knows the Homeland Security Life Cycle Report says if you get an order removal and you're in an ICE bed, you get removed 99% of the time. But if you're not in detention, your chances of being removed are slim. If you're a family unit, it's about 6%. That's why they're releasing them. Thousands of empty ICE beds sitting there right now, already paid for by the taxpayer. They'd rather release them because they know the vast majority will lose their case and they'll be ordered removed, but if they're not in detention, they won't be removed. So this administration comes up with what they call lawful pathways, which I think are illegal, and I think they'll lose when the decision of the courts come out. The CBP One app, 95.8% are approved. Where's the case-by-case analysis that is supposed to be done for people for a parole? It's not being done. It's a shell game. They move people, the port of entry so they can claim less illegal entries between the port of entries, but it's failed Because November, December, we saw record amounts of crossings on the border, over 300,000 just in December. And people who say that the border is not in crisis, I tell you this. In 2020, the total encounters on the southwest border is 646,000. This year, 3.2 million, 5 times what we saw during last year's Trump administration. Court orders are years out, but this administration is counting on it. You overflow the system. It'll push these court dates back 7, 8 years. And what's going to happen? Mark my word. When they finally get order removal 7 years down the road, they'll have a USC child. They'll have 2 USC children. They'll get phone calls from, the director of ICE will get phone calls from the Hill saying, why'd you remove that person with 2 USC kids? Well, he didn't have 2 USC kids when he entered the country legally. So now that he has 2 USC kids, he's immune from the law. The court order means nothing. So here's what I'm looking for. If for people who demand these people have a right to claim asylum, they have a right to due process. I agree. But due process doesn't mean anything if the final decision of the courts is not executed and people aren't removed. So if it takes 5 or 6 years, they still must be removed, or the system means nothing. I've been attacked numerous times because I worked with President Trump. They said our policy is inhumane. I've been called a racist and a bigot by members of Congress. Well, let's get one thing straight. Under President Trump, illegal immigration went to a 40, 45-year low, 83% decline in illegal immigration. There's been several studies saying 31% of women that make that journey through cartels get sexually assaulted. So let me ask you a question. I'll make a point. When 83% less people are coming, how many migrants didn't die crossing the border when 83% less were coming? How many people didn't die? How many people off the terror screening database didn't try to come to the country because Border Patrol's 100% vigilant on the line and now overwhelmed? How many women and children didn't get sex trafficking to the United States, forced into sex slavery, forced labor, debt bondage? How many billions did the criminal cartels not make? Under President Biden, where they call this humane, over 1,700 migrants have died on U.S. soil, historic record, not counting the Darien Gap in Mexico and Central America. 112,000 Americans dying from fentanyl, historical increase in sex trafficking, forced labor, and debt bondage. Almost 100,000 missing kids that were released by ORR. 440,000 unaccompanied children entered the country through the service of the cartels. Someone needs to explain to me how that's humane. And
there you go. I don't know what to say because he's out there and he's been called in these meetings, and by Democrats, a racist and xenophobe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you don't really see nobody is attacking him right now. Nobody really attacked him this week. They won't debate him. They'll just get on there and do their 5 minutes of filibustering, but they can't win against Mr. Homan. They can't.
Well, the experience, the decades of experience, the facts that he brings to the table.
Now, he did go after that, what's his name, Representative Cesar of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
We played that yesterday, but Cesar sounded like a child.
Yeah, that was a weak attempt.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then he moved on and just filibustered.
Well, and it's, it makes you wonder what the people of Austin, the people in this district, the people that voted for him, what they think. Austin isn't immune because it's liberal or weird, as they say. Weird translates, it's Texan for liberal, for those that don't know. And
it's the same for Portland, Oregon, because they had their slang. Keep Portland weird when I was there. That's
right. And those are the things that you have to ask. Okay, then what do your constituents think? Because there's no way to debate. The Democrats want this badly to be about a debate about legal immigration, right? Whether people should be able to come here at all legally. They're trying, and they have been for years, but still it's the last thing that they have, aside from right now going after this failed attempt at lying a couple of times in major ways, the border agents on horses, and accused them of whipping immigrants. The lies about the immigrants who drown They need to come up with very serious lies. And when it comes to those two agents, their careers were greatly affected over lies. Over all, and those lies went all the way to the top.
Yeah, it went Biden, Mayorkas.
And I cannot imagine being in that place where you are being accused of something and it's not true. And then you're being, they go through the investigation part of it and you're being punished for something you didn't do. This is who the Democrats are, because they can't win on the border. They can't win. There is no win for them.
But I'm happy he's out there saying it, because one thing I don't think the Republicans are doing is, on all the major issues out there ought to be an umbrella theme. Understand the Democrats cannot solve the problems because these aren't problems that were created organically,
right,
and they can't solve. They can't solve these problems because they created these problems.
Yeah.
And Holman is talking about the fact that this was created by the Biden administration. And the Democrats are still trying to sit there and say, well, no, this is because of Trump, or this is because of climate change, or this is... No. It is because specifically about the executive orders that Biden put into motion on day one of his presidency. The Biden administration caused this. And that's why you have the Democrats continually lying, as they did, trying to make it, well, the Republicans don't want more Border Patrol agents, as if they are the ones that are attempting to secure the border. Or Mayorkas in his lies over and over again. Yeah. The border is secure. The border is secure. The border is secure. I mean, gaslighting. Well, what do you mean? Of course, don't you all know that the border is secure? And everybody knows it's not. And now the border isn't secure for Mayorkas. But it's just because we don't have enough resources down there, and the Republicans won't give them enough resources. But they would take those resources. We all know it, and every Democrat listening right now knows it. They would take those resources to process more people into the country. They wouldn't use those resources to close the border.
And, a change in policy would also change the need for greater resources.
Oh, yeah.
If you put asylum back into the box of where it's supposed to be in terms of the criteria for asylum, a lot would change. And it would change pretty quickly. But they have to lie, because they really do want Congress to write them a bigger check so they can continue doing and expand what they're doing right now.
Right. And I guess if you're a Democrat voter, you know this. You're not stupid, but you're okay with the lies.
Yeah.
You're okay with the lies as long as it accomplishes what you wish to accomplish.
Right.
You're okay with the Democrats saying, oh, no, we're trying really to try to secure the border. It's a complete lie, but you're for it because you know that what they want is the opposite.
Right.
And you're okay with it.
Yeah. You have to be. We don't hear the outrage.
I don't hear any outrage at all. It's only coming from Republicans. Democrats are just pathologically lying across the board on it. And Karine Jean-Pierre got caught this week by Jackie Heinrich of Fox News on the drowning.
On the drowning, yeah.
What was the other one? I forgot what the other one was that she called her on. She called her on two different things on the border. But so I was just, in fact, it was playing in the background here. I had it here, but she had her on that one, and I forgot what the other one was.
But these are the lies they have to tell in order to, just to keep the agenda going. If their base were louder about it, made any noise about it, You know, I know Biden's ego doesn't allow him to make changes very quickly. But if the Democratic base, if the rank and file were loud about this, you'd have to do something, especially just months before the election.
Yeah, they don't seem at all concerned about it.
I don't hear it.
Just keep the insanity going. And,
right.
And even with the complaints. But then again, when you look at Democrats, think about this. Are Democrats just like the mayors of New York and Chicago that are putting the blame on Greg Abbott?
Right.
Where they actually don't want to look at what they're admitting the problem of all these migrants being allowed into the country is a huge problem.
Yeah.
But it's Greg Abbott's fault.
Right. Don't you dare bring up Joe.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what Mayor Adams was told. Remember, he wanted the White House. He was telling the White House, I need help, I need help, I need help. That went quiet. I'm sure that's what he was told.
Right.
You redirect your anger, Mayor. You don't talk about this in the news. That was about the same time the governor of New York was going after Adams.
86690 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Earn personalized savings on commercial truck insurance with Smart Haul from Progressive. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. Not available in all states or situations.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, the other thing that she called Karine Jean-Pierre on was the I forgot
agents,
again.
the Border Patrol
The
agents?
Border. Yeah, that the Republicans didn't want more Border Patrol agents.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Did I say that already?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, now you've said it.
All right, I said it once.
It's like the old joke. Hey, this is a picture of me when I was younger. Actually, every picture of you is a picture of you when you were younger. Who was that?
So I see that in Buffalo, they're asking people again to come to shovel out the stadium. They got pounded all this week again. I mean, that.
Well, here in Texas, some fans are trying to get together to shovel out Jerry Jones. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. No.
But a guy can wish.
McCarthy's back again. Your coach is back.
I know, another year. And he had another year on his contract. I mean, it's just that contracts are made to be broken especially with games like that. And there aren't many games that are that bad performance-wise. But, yeah, okay, he's coming back.
I mean, they just got so much snow up there.
Yeah.
So, but both teams, I mean, Kansas City played, it's Kansas City coming in to play Buffalo, and Kansas City played in that, really frozen game at Arrowhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it'll be a good game. But I like those two teams playing together because there's a rivalry, but there's a great respect that those teams seem to have. It's not the typical, you don't hear any type of trash talk
right.
or anything like that. There's a great deal of of respect, and I like that. I like when that happens. And Mahomes and Josh Allen are friends. They're good friends. I think Mahomes was talking about the other day. He goes, yeah. When he's your friend, you want to play harder against them because you want the bragging rights.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like
yeah. All day.
So it'll be another game I'll be asleep for, though.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
all right.
It's the way it is. All right, you ready for this one? Because this is, again, shaking your head. This is where we're at. Federal investigators asked banks to search and filter customer transactions by using terms like MAGA and Trump as part of an investigation into January 6th, warning that purchases of religious texts could indicate extremism, the House Judiciary Committee revealed on Wednesday. Fox News Digital has learned the committee also obtained documents, get ready for this now, that indicate officials suggested that banks query transactions with keywords like Dick's Sporting Goods, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, and more.
Yeah, what could those have in common?
The House Judiciary Committee and its subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government has been conducting oversight of federal law enforcement's receipt of information about American citizens without legal process and its engagement with the private sector. Jim Jordan said the documents obtained by the committee indicate that after January 6th, the Treasury Department's Office of Stakeholder Integration and Engagement in the Strategic Operations of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network distributed materials to financial institutions that outlined various persons of interest and provided banks with suggested search terms and merchant category codes for identifying transactions on behalf of federal law enforcement. Wow.
I'm shocked. Next thing you know, they'll have the FBI in the parking lots of school board meetings taking the license plate numbers down of the parents that are there. Yeah, why wouldn't you, right?
The Treasury Department declined to comment.
Yeah. I bet.
Wow. Jordan said the committee obtained documents showing that the government distributed slides prepared by KeyBank to other banks to explain how they could use merchant category codes to detect customers whose transactions may reflect potential active shooters and who may include dangerous international terrorists, domestic terrorists, and homegrown violent extremist lone wolves. Jordan said the slide instructs financial institutions to query for transactions using codes like small arms, sporting and recreational goods and supplies, and the keywords Cabela's, Dick's Sporting Goods, Bass Pro Shop, among others. KeyBank has declined to comment. Wow. A source familiar with the documents told Fox News Digital that while January 6th was the impetus for the queries and the searches, none of the documents the committee has obtained reveal any specific time frames or limitations for banks searching customer transactions with those terms. The source said the federal government used the information for investigations far beyond January 6th. Despite these transactions having no apparent criminal intent and, in fact, relate to Americans exercising their Second Amendment rights, the government seems to have adopted a characterization of these Americans as potential threat actors, Jordan wrote. This kind of pervasive financial surveillance carried out in coordination with and at the request of federal law enforcement into Americans' private transactions is alarming and raises serious doubts about the government's respect for fundamental liberties. Meanwhile, in a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray on Wednesday and obtained by Fox News Digital, Jordan requested a transcribed interview with the senior private sector partner for outreach in the strategic partner engagement section at the FBI, Peter Sullivan. Jordan said the committee has received testimony indicating that Bank of America provided the FBI voluntarily and without any legal process a list of individuals who made transactions in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area using a Bank of America credit or debit card between January 5th and January 7th. We already knew that part, though, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did.
Fox News Digital first reported on that portion of the committee's investigation last year. Well, there it is right there. Bank of America in November said the bank followed all applicable laws in its interaction with the government. The bank noted that the Treasury Department on January 15th shared information regarding potential criminal activity that could disrupt the upcoming inauguration. We have cooperated with the committee as they evaluate whether laws we complied with should be changed, Bank of America. But in the Wednesday letter, Jordan states that when that list was later brought to the attention of the FBI, the former section chief of the Domestic Terrorism Operations Section, Steve Jensen, acted to pull that Bank of America information from FBI systems because the leads lacked allegations of federal criminal conduct. Jordan said the committee obtained documents that showed FBI personnel, including Sullivan, made contact with and provided Bank of America with specific search query terms indicating that it was interested in all financial relationships of Bank of America customers transacting in Washington, D.C., and customers who had made any historical purchase of a firearm or who had purchased a hotel, Airbnb, or airline travel within a given date range. You can't do that.
No, I mean, but you can't do that. You can't do that without a warrant. No, but after the whole NSA thing in the metadata. Well, if we can do this and get away with it, then we can do whatever we want and get away with it. And remember, especially under the Biden administration, you have the Department of Justice officials coming out going, oh, no, domestic terrorism is the biggest threat. This is the biggest threat. Fear-mongering.
Well, I mean, that would justify it. You set up that fear.
Yeah.
Of what was going on.
Right.
And the thing is this applicable to every riot or did this happen in the summer of 2020?
Or exactly.
Did this happen in the summer of 2020?
Or
no. for the DC
not
riot,
that we know
for
of.
the DC riots that went on. Remember, right up to the White House.
Right.
At the fence. Did the same thing happen then?
Not that we're aware of.
Not that we're aware of.
You look at the potential of saying, well, look, if they did it on January 6th of 2021, well, they could do it at any moment if they're unhappy, or this could happen and that could happen, or this people could be forming groups, and then you just have this open-ended excuse for doing it. And then just monitoring people's bank accounts and transactions in this way. Mm-hmm. And it's a never-ending endeavor.
And looking for any $600 deposits, too.
Yeah, of course.
At the same time.
Right.
We're going to help out the IRS in
exactly,
this one.
Yeah. No, and that's, that's how they conduct business.
You think of everything here, you when you see the Twitter files and what went on there. And by the way, when you think about the Twitter files, that's what's really horrified because they had no idea. They were all Democrats and liberals walking in there when Elon Musk came in and said, okay, look at everything that happened here and see if there was. They were blown away. I think they were genuinely shocked. And that's why, people like Barry Weiss has looked at it, and she was, as New York Times writer, as liberal as you can get.
Yeah.
And just went, what the hell is going on with the government?
Yeah, I have no doubt that process, being involved in that process, changed the way that they think and changed the way they see things.
Well, it's horrifying when you think about the potential of what, and this is the whole thing. I mean, what they're throwing out at Trump is what they've already done.
Yeah, and I said that, was it last night or night before on the show, that, look at the accusations, and it often demonstrates what they've actually been doing. And, this has gone, who knows if it's still going on? I mean, it's an election year, Gary, and they tell us domestic terrorism is the biggest threat.
And remember, at the same time, the Catholic memo,
right?
My God!
Oh yeah.
You remember? Well, one of the concerns is any Catholic who still wants to have a Latin mass.
Yeah.
My God, what the hell are they?
Right.
I mean, so now it's the what is the Irish Republican Army? Are they over here now? Are they back again? Is there something going on that we don't know? They just
did. Well,
and just decided to.
But what
you do is
you categorize and compartmentalize certain behaviors as extreme, and of course you would have to include religion, because if you can do that successfully, then you have essentially a carte blanche to go do whatever, do all of this and keep doing it. I mean, they're doing it, but to keep doing it and it be a normal thing, a normal process.
Mm-hmm.
And they are violating the constitutional rights of Americans.
Well, and that's
every day.
That's why Christopher Wray, when they remember, was only part of the Richmond office. Well, it was shared between other people, and we still don't know the extent of how widespread that was. And then the next question, did you fire anybody?
Right.
Was anybody disciplined?
Well, we can't talk about that because
you can.
Yeah, they can't talk about any of that because that's personnel. So we don't know if there's ever been any accountability. But the fact that mindset existed, even if it was clamped down upon, you're gone.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're at that level of law enforcement in the federal government, and anybody that was involved in that memo or investigation that didn't become a whistleblower, gone.
Right.
You're gone out of law enforcement.
Right.
You have no business being in it.
Right. I mean, it's going back to the Lois Lerner thing. There's a couple of rogue agents in Ohio. No, it wasn't going after the Tea Party. No, it was not. And here we are. None of us should be shocked by this story.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, this is interesting. A Texas bus company has launched a lawsuit against the city of Chicago, saying an ordinance that requires them to stop dropping off migrants violates the U.S. Constitution and the Illinois Constitution.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Wayne Transportation, LLC, is requesting declaratory judgment and injunctive relief from the city. According to lawsuit documents filed on January 5th, the lawsuit is in response to the December ordinance, which warns that buses face seizure or impoundment for unloading migrant passengers outside designated hours and locations and or without a permit to do so. Violators could face $3,000 in fine in addition to towing and storage fees, Wind Transportation already had one bus impounded by the city, according to NBC. Bus companies must also provide advance notice and receive approval from the city before dropping off migrants at the city's designated landing zones. According to the ordinance, the city says companies are now no longer communicating about where they are dropping off migrants to avoid city penalties. Wow. The transportation company says the ordinance restricts migrants from entering Chicago by placing stringent requirements and harsh punishments. And, you know, that you think about it, and I think you had said that when this first came out. You said, you have the right of movement in this country.
I had no doubt that the bus company really doesn't have any other choice but to respond with a countersuit. And this is what you do. Especially now that we know that, you know, according to this story, that at least one of their buses has been impounded, then you've been damaged by this. And you're violating the Constitution. You're violating the state constitution of Illinois. I mean, this could be a pretty quick decision.
Because the migrants here, because the Biden administration allowing them in, are in here legally.
Yes. Nobody disputes that.
Nobody disputes that, because I know you have a lot in the conservative media calling them illegal immigrants, but because they have checked in, I mean, there may be some illegal immigrants in the buses, but from what we know, the vast majority are migrants,
right? And
the Biden administration has legalized their presence in the country,
right?
Once
that's important,
right? That's important, because then, okay, here's a bus.
Yeah.
The bus wishes to go here. Get on the bus.
They choose. They're here legally,
right,
and they choose to get on the bus.
Right. And Chicago is stating the bus can't come here.
Right.
Or it must have a permit to come here, when other buses don't need a permit
they
to
don't
do
need
though.
A permit.
They got a lawsuit.
They do.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This op-ed piece for editorial from the Association of Mature American Citizens, how the migrant crisis destroyed American liberalism. And this is just, I want to read a couple paragraphs because it's really, really good. On January 9th, students at James Madison High School in Brooklyn discovered that they would be spending the next 2 days in front of their computer screens learning from home. But it wasn't the usual winter weather causing this cancellation of in-person classes. Instead, it was because the city of New York was planning to move nearly 2,000 illegal migrants from their encampment and resettle them at the school, displacing the students. The move prompted understandable outrage from parents and recriminations from local officials who pleaded helplessness. What were they supposed to do? Allow the migrants to freeze to death in the coming storm? In a single cold evening in New York City, one example illustrated the bankruptcy of 2 decades of liberal discourse on immigration. When history is written, the decision of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who was widely mocked by the mainstream media when he announced it in 2021 to bus migrants from the border into blue state sanctuary cities, may be remembered as one of the most momentous in modern history. It was definitely among the most politically clever. Over nearly 3 years, Abbott's decision effectively nationalized the costs of an issue that had previously only produced localized winners and losers. Border state residents paid the cost of mass illegal migration, while blue state residents far from the border enjoyed cheap labor and the chance to be morally righteous. For all Democrats, like to talk about redistribution of resources and privilege, the busing of migrants was the most successful redistributive policy in recent memory, one which has left Democrats with no answer. One reason it succeeded was because it played on the class divisions that define American politics. Modern American liberalism is less a collection of policy positions. This is something that we talk about all the time. Where do they actually stand on the issues?
Right.
Modern American liberalism is less a collection of policy positions based on a worldview than an effort by individuals to demonstrate their own social status through demonstrating contempt towards those beneath them. Critics of the shift away from the basics of math, science, and reading towards DEI and weird sexual education curricula in schools often miss that. For liberals, sending one's children to a school that teaches gibberish rather than reading, writing, and arithmetic is in effect a method of demonstrating that your family is connected enough to ensure that your children can secure college admission and employment without the need to learn real skills. That's fascinating. That is why the inability of those graduates to secure employment or repay student loans is such an issue for the Biden base. The ability to take useless degrees and succeed is intrinsic to their identity. What a great point.
Yeah.
Immigration took a similar tone. The ability to make high-minded moral proclamations such as no human is illegal, walls are racist, or borders are illegitimate, advertised that those making such claims had the economic clout to build their own domestic walls to keep the consequences of their own ideology out of their communities. Well, I've never had a problem with migrants, the liberal from suburban Boston would say, before noting how much harder Ecuadorians worked on their vacation home renovation than local Americans who were probably addicted to opioids. The ability to prioritize foreign illegal migrants over native workers implied that liberals were above both and in a position to pass judgment upon them. Support for open borders became a way to punish working-class Americans for failing to show adequate deference. The policy of busing migrants to sanctuary communities in blue states cleverly destroyed the basis of this ideological worldview. This was not merely by causing liberals to feel the pain in their own communities. That was an element, and an effective one at that, but the assault went deeper. Many upscale liberals define themselves by their distance from issues. Their sense of class identity was defined by the fact that there were no migrants or homeless people in their communities. They had paid housing premiums to move into leafy suburbs with no migrants, and now the presence of migrants and the problems of crime, littering, and safety they brought punctured those bubbles. At its root, the upscale liberal dream has always been about control. If migrants are going to be hosted in a town or school, it is because local parents have decided to bring in a dozen Somali refugees and settle them in a local church, not because migrants showed up and had to be housed. If schools are going to hold anti-racist training, it is because parents decided so they could explain to friends at work that what they were doing to combat systemic racism, not because gang warfare was breaking out in their children's school. In short, the nature of high-income American liberalism is that every problem must have an on-off switch, at which point turning the problem on becomes a sign of power over less fortunate Americans, while the ability to turn it off ensures that progressive politics remains an extracurricular activity. The crisis of American liberalism in 2024 when it comes to the migrant crisis is that the off switch is broken. Brooklyn parents are liberal. And there may well have been some who, in other circumstances, would have happily taken the woke points from agreeing to allow a few dozen migrant families to stay at their high school's gym over a vacation, provided, of course, they were out well before the students returned to classes and with enough time to fully clean the premises. What happened at James Madison High School was different. New York officials did not choose to act. They were forced to do so. The migrants were rehoused in the middle of the school week with little notice. Parents may well have had important work-related meetings, were forced to scramble to accommodate, and kids were forced home. They had lost control. Wow. Wonderful article.
Yeah.
And it goes on. There's a lot more to it, but I just thought that was, this is a reality. That this is where virtue signaling comes in. This is what I believe, as long as it doesn't affect me.
Well, I mean, we've seen it in play how many times? The couple in California, Obamacare. We supported Obamacare. We didn't know we were going to have to pay for it. Well, now, fast forward to 2024, and it's, oh, no, I agree with all these things. Well, I don't know if they're going along to get along, but, but part of it is the big virtue signaling, as you point out, and then all of a sudden it starts affecting them. Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. And we've been talking about reality and many things in the whole equation, abstract versus reality, were ramped up, put on warp speed during COVID. And because of COVID and the response, the horrible response to COVID. But it has the potential of crushing modern-day liberalism. A number of things on the table. Think about how long the debate on the border has been there. If we could get on top of spending, if we could incorporate fiscal sanity into it, it might be the end of liberalism, at least this modern-day liberalism as we know it. But right now, we can't get on top of that, unfortunately.
Well, you had said it because we have been on this narrative for a while that the problem is, and the reason that things are going to be solved is because we've taken them to the point where reality is now interfering with the hypothetical liberalism. Right. And, or hypothetical liberalism of what liberalism will do in the future.
Right.
And, this is a perfect example here. Illegal immigration is fine as long as we're not affected by it. We don't, we're all for gun control, but we have our armed security and we live in our gated communities, and therefore we don't have that problem. To hell if you can't afford the protection of it across the board on every single issue. Let's spend more money. Oops, inflation hits. Oops, wait a minute. There's a cost to all of this. Mm-hmm. And you know something? All the money that I received a couple of years ago doesn't make up for everything we've lost because of the actual consequences of the reality of economics there. And you can go point by point to every single major issue out there. And it's like, okay, and you mentioned healthcare before. Think about this. When we talked about, remember, California, Colorado, and Vermont, all, wanted to go down and have basically, socialized, a single-payer system. Well, the fact is, states can't go into debt like the federal government. So it didn't happen in any of those places because nobody wished to foot the bill.
Right.
So the only time they would wish to foot the bill for nationalized health care is if future generations will pay for it.
Right.
Somebody else will pay for it. Well, then I'm for it.
Right.
But I'm not for liberalism if I got to pay for it. I didn't know I was going to have to pay for it. I didn't know it was going to affect. I didn't know the consequences were going to affect me. And that's why I talked about a couple of Democratic congresspeople this week and said their arguments are very childlike. Because think about it. Overall, the argument is childlike. I'm for good things as long I'm for all these good things, and I'm for all these things to happen as long as they don't affect me in any way.
Well, no, I mean,
that's
sanctuary city policy. Think about it. We welcome you here.
Well, they're showing up by the busloads now. What? How many buses?
Well, we're gonna sue the bus companies.
Only a child's mind says, I want something, and they don't think about the consequences. Why? Because their parents or their guardians take care of it.
Right.
And that's what you have. You have a bunch of children in liberalism today.
Yeah.
And that's why I said this week, I go, listen to how they argue. They're arguing like spoiled children. But it should be this way. It should be this way. It should be this way.
Yeah.
And how come? And they never want to pay for it. And so they come up with things like, oh, the rich will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or somebody else will, or whatever. But it's not going to affect me.
Right.
I'm not going to pay for it. I don't want to be affected by the consequences of it.
How do you think it's paid for? I don't know. Magic?
Or we have slogans, you know. Well, we're the most advanced country, and we can't afford to take care of everybody.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. That's simple virtue signaling. Just make the proclamation. That's a false proclamation that we can take care of everything. Or this one. You know this one.
Yeah.
We're the richest country that's ever existed. Why can't we take care of everybody? If we can't, then the system is flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Well, but remember the, forget who it was, the reporter.
Hey, listen, we're here and we've got a petition to get Walmart to pay their employees more. Okay, great. We're also taking donations to give these employees here at this store. Nope. Yeah. Abstract versus reality.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More polling coming up.
All right.
The Georgia judge schedules a hearing on Fanni Willis and the alleged improper relationship with the top prosecutor. This could blow the whole thing out of the water.
It really could.
The RICO charge against the president and other people, the RICO charges are bogus.
Yeah.
Here, and I asked you the question. I don't know what the answer is, but it's like, if she has to step down, does another prosecutor want this case?
Well, no, it's a great question. It's weak to begin with. You want to walk in after this whole mess, after that situation implodes, and then take it on yourself? Who wants to do that?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, excuse me, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm just testing my voice.
All right.
Well, it is a Friday show, so we've been talking all week.
Well, that's true.
All right, we didn't get into it yet. Let's get into it. We'll try to explain it, then we'll let Jonathan Turley explain it. No, but
then he'll actually get it right. We'll screw it up and let him correct it.
And no, this is not about Hunter Biden.
Right.
But this is about the Supreme Court hearing this week on the Chevron case and Chevron deference. And a lot of people are like, okay, but climate change. No, this has nothing to do with oil.
Right.
Okay, so nothing to do with fossil fuels. This is a case that they heard this week. Two cases, actually, they heard this week that could overturn what's called the Chevron deference in this country, which is since the mid-'80s, this is they call it the Chevron doctrine, which requires judges to defer to regulators when the text is ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where if there is no law on something, that regulators can come up with their own law.
Right.
They come up with rulemaking.
Right.
As Turley will tell you in a couple of seconds, most of what governs what we do is regulations, not law.
Well, through and this is something that Obama basically said out loud. I don't need for cap and trade type policy. I don't need even my own party on Capitol Hill. I don't need lawmakers. I can get this done with my pen. And that's what they do. They have their administration go through, and not executive orders. These are rulemakings through the administration, and they go through their, it's supposed to be, the process is supposed to be fairly transparent, which it usually is, but nobody's paying attention to the rulemaking process and everything else, and the public comment period. Then all of a sudden, next thing you know, boom, it's a rule, and it governs your life. It governs industry.
And this is a case actually about fishermen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the cases about fishermen that have to pay for onboard federal monitors,
right,
to monitor what they're doing, because there is no federal law on it.
Right.
So the Commerce Department came out and said, okay, this is a rule. You have to have monitors on and you've got to pay for it.
Right.
And they went, why? There is no law that dictates this. And so what you see happening, and this is the concern, is that we have three branches of government. Regulators have become the de facto fourth.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because they're making rules which are, if you tell, for example, in these fishermen on the boats, these fisheries, so they say, okay, you need to have, we've decided you need federal monitors to monitor what everybody is doing, and you've got to pay for it. And they're like, well, excuse me, you're putting a hardship on it. Where's the law? Well, there is no law. Congress is silent on it. But we believe, because of the Chevron ruling from the mid-'80s, that this is that we have the ability to do this. And so you see, the rulemaking process that has gone on to the point of being ridiculous. And all of a sudden, all these things are being passed by agencies out there. And you're like, well, isn't Congress supposed to make laws? Well, these aren't laws, they're rules. Well, if they dictate how you run your business and they cost you money, how is that not a legislative function? Did the Founding Fathers view that bureaucrats should be able to control your life? Or in a constitutional republic, is that supposed to be your elected representatives that screw you over?
Yeah. Right, exactly. Let them do all the damage.
I added that in for dramatic effect. And they write here, they go, Justice Kagan said it's up to Congress to overturn Chevron, but as the fisheries, that we'll use that, attorney Paul Clement said, I'm not sure everybody in Congress wants to overrule Chevron.
Right.
It's really convenient for some members of Congress not to have to tackle the hard questions and to rely on their friends in the executive branch to get them everything that they want. He added that even if Congress were to pass a law overturning Chevron, the president would veto it because it would take away executive power and executive rulemaking, which gets to executive orders. You know, you look at the executive orders that the president has put in and been constantly, overturned. This is unconstitutional. This is unconstitutional. This is unconstitutional. From the vaccine mandates to the what was it? For the rent.
Yeah, the moratorium on evictions.
Right. The moratorium. They didn't have the power to do it.
Right.
Well, this is going to the bureaucrats, not the president. This is the bureaucrats in the federal government, which is also part of the executive branch. And the whole point is, you don't make law. Yeah, but we make rules. But the rules are laws.
Right.
I mean, what's the difference between a rule and a law? You can say, well, a rule is a bureaucrat telling you've got to do something, and a law is Congress telling you to do something. Well, in our system, even if we disagree with it, we're okay if Congress tells us that we have to do something because we can hold them accountable. You can't hold bureaucrats accountable.
Right.
There's no accountability there.
Right.
And our whole system is based on accountability. Even if the president himself does it, he can be overturned by the Supreme Court and people can say, okay, you're out of office.
Right.
But a bureaucrat, you can't do that. And it said, in any event, as the lawyer said, Chevron wrongly assumes that ambiguity is always a delegation to the executive branch.
Right.
And it's not.
Yeah, it assumes that it just goes that way by default.
Yeah. More often, ambiguity is I don't have enough votes in Congress to make it clear, so I'm going to leave it ambiguous, and then we'll give it to my friends in the agency to pass a rule. And so they believe there's a good chance of it being overturned or a lot of bite taken out of it. Here's Jonathan Turley talking about it on Fox News yesterday.
Most of the everyday life of citizens is affected by regulations, not laws. They're affected by what bureaucrats essentially decide in state and federal agencies. Since 1984, the level of deference given to federal agencies has been enormous. It's very difficult to dislodge an agency decision because of Chevron. And that level of deference has led to this enhancement of bureaucracy to the point that some refer to it as a fourth branch. We have a tripartite system of three branches, and this sort of introduces a fourth one, which is all of these federal agencies that are effectively legislating for the country. And it is really a very serious problem because the balance in our system of three branches is a very delicate one. To introduce a fourth branch, introduces a level of instability and unaccountability that troubles many.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, it troubles many because we're in a constitutional republic, and a republic means you have representatives that makes the laws. You know, we can actually look at it because was it an executive order from the president that to change Title IX, or was that actually coming from the Education Department and?
That was coming from the DOJ and the Department of Education.
Right.
So that joint edict really was the bureaucratic interpretation. They called it their interpretation of Title IX.
Then that's a perfect point.
Yeah.
And people can understand. We'll simplify it for everybody out there, and for me. But in that particular case, it was the DOJ and the Education Department that said Title IX, and anybody knows that Title IX, when it was passed by Congress, was for biological women.
Yeah, right.
Everyone knows it.
Right.
Well, Congress has never changed that law.
Right.
Title IX still remains the same, and the Department of Justice, an agency of the federal government, and the Education Department, they're the ones that came up and said, okay, we're going to change the definition of sex.
Yeah, you're going to change the definition of the entire basis for the protection.
Right.
That what qualifies or who qualifies to be a woman. And as you know, I've said, well, if you're going to go in and if anyone can belong to a protected group by saying so, then there are no protected groups.
And so, but think about it, because we're talking about what is viewed as women's rights.
Yeah.
That women's rights and women's opportunities, and Congress passed the law.
Yeah.
And it was very clear it's for biological women.
Right.
Well, unaccountable bureaucrats came in and said,
no, our interpretation is this.
Yeah, our interpretation is we're going to change the definition of, well, Congress didn't do that.
Nope.
Those bureaucrats are not held accountable by anybody. They're not elected. And so I think it's pretty easy to understand what was going on. I don't want people to think that it's about oil and climate change, the Chevron deference. But
right.
Yeah, and so I hope it gets changed. Well, things may move slower. I don't care. That's the system we live in. The system we live under is a representative government.
Right.
And you and I've always had the disagreement with the power of these bureaucrats to just come up with rules instead of Congress doing their job.
Well, the Department of Education. We're just going to, boom, forgive the loans. Whoa, hold on.
Yeah, exactly right.
The American people of the bank.
Right.
And we have representatives. If Congress came in and voted on it and it passed, then that process is how it's supposed to work, even though we would disagree with that move. That's not what happened. The Department of Education moved in and did it. And, those are the things we look at in the case of these fisheries. It cost them over $700 a day for these monitors. Well, that's crushing.
Yeah. If Congress dictated it, then they'd have to deal with it.
Right. Yep. And
unless they could find something unconstitutional with it.
And there's a reason you can't get it done legislatively, just like with college loans, just like likely with this situation here, is that who's going to step up and vote for that and impose that kind of, massive cost on industry, or in the case of college loans, put that on the taxpayer, the rest of the taxpayers who don't have college loans. You're not going to do that on Capitol Hill. There was a reason they couldn't get it
I
done.
said fishing boats. It was at the fisheries. Actually.
Fisheries, yes.
Fisheries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Let me just clarify that. All right.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, too. If that bill would have been introduced in Congress to do this, every congressman where there's a fishery, every senator from a state that has, is more fishing oriented, whatever, all of them would be coming out against it. Yeah. And you would have actually a bipartisan a bipartisan group of members of Congress coming out against it. And in all likelihood, it wouldn't have passed.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or there would have been a big stink about it. But when it's done, because that's the thing about, bureaucracies, because most people probably have no idea, that it was actually the Department of Education, Department of Justice that actually changed the definition of biological sex.
Right.
Congress didn't do it.
Right.
Bureaucrat. Now, the Obama wanted it. Obama agreed with it, but it was the agencies that actually did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And bureaucrats should not make laws. Do Democrats agree with that? Because if you don't agree with it, if you are a Democrat and don't agree with what we've talked about, then you can't call Donald Trump an authoritarian.
Right. Exactly.
Argue that one.
Well, we've said it for years. When it came to, decisions on health care and everything else, back in the day, my gosh, we've been doing this way too long.
Well, the one thing where Obama said on climate change, we don't need Congress. I don't need to do it. My agencies will do it for me.
Right.
The EPA coming up with rules and rules and rules.
What I can't do with the pen, I can do administratively through, these agencies.
Right. The agencies will do it.
That was effectively Obama on that joint edict. Technically it wasn't, but it was. If it was Biden out there promoting forgiving, transferring as we call it, college loan debt. That was Biden, not the Department of Education. He did it through the Department of Education, and his administration and everyone in it believed in it. But all of these are moves where presidents say, well, we're going to bypass and we're going to do these rules and we're going to change the rules as we move along. And sorry, you don't get to do that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's just reading here from the Wall Street Journal. It says, by allowing Congress to pass off responsibility to regulators, Chevron has contributed to the legislative dysfunction and gridlock. Congress has failed to pass a law regulating cryptocurrency after the FTX fiasco. Mr. Clements said, because there's an agency head out there that thinks that he already has the authority to address this uniquely 21st century problem with a couple of statutes passed in the 1930s. Perhaps he means Security and Exchange Chairman Gary Gensler, and he's going to have to wave his wand, and he's going to have to say the words investment contract are ambiguous, Mr. Clement said, or consider the Federal Communications Commission has rewritten broadband regulation 4 times in 14 years. It's not too much to say Chevron has corrupted all 3 branches of government. It lets Congress abdicate its duty to write clear laws, the bureaucracy to grab more power, and the courts to abandon their normal method of judicial review. Time for the high court to restore constitutional equilibrium.
Right.
Yeah. We're a representative government.
Exactly.
That's what we are.
Yep.
The Bonus Show.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, this was really interesting. A hearing will take place in Georgia next month over accusations that Fulton County District Attorney Fanni Willis and her lead prosecutor on the county elections interference case against former President Donald Trump had an improper relationship and mishandled taxpayer funds. The hearing is scheduled for February 15th. I'm sorry. According to an order from Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, the judge gave Willis until February 2nd to respond to the allegations, which were first reported in a legal filing from one of Trump's co-defendants, former campaign aide Mike Roman. Lawyers, for Roman called for Willis and prosecutor Nathan Wade to be removed from the case and for charges against Roman to be dismissed on the grounds that the district attorney and the special prosecutor have been engaged in an improper, clandestine personal relationship during the pendency of this case, which has resulted in the special prosecutor and, in turn, district attorney profiting significantly from the prosecution at the expense of taxpayers. And by the way, also gives a motive for prosecuting Trump and the other people, what I view as bogus RICO charges. Because I look at this down the road, depending on what happens, how this is viewed by the judge. But nobody, not even Fanni Willis, is debating any of it.
No.
She simply said, we're being targeted because of racism.
Right.
It's like, oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't say it wasn't true.
The filing does not include any hard proof of the pair's alleged romantic relationship, but claims sources close to both the special prosecutor and district attorney have confirmed they had an ongoing personal relationship. And, of course, Willis did not deny it, as we all know. Wade has been paid more than $500,000 through his involvement in prosecuting the Trump election interference case. And the thing here is, which has the possibility of destroying this entire case for them, is, all right, so you went after Trump and did this to enrich yourself.
Right.
Because the other allegation is he's made a ton of money on this, and they've done stuff with the money.
Right.
So this became, and the person you put in was not qualified to actually, be a prosecutor in a case like this. And so, did you do this because you really believe that you have a RICO case against Trump, or did you do this to enrich yourself? Which gets to the motivation of the prosecution to begin with. Was it more than just, let's get Trump? Was it, I can get Trump and enrich myself and my boyfriend in the process?
And her boyfriend making hundreds of thousands of dollars so far.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, I'm just reading this. It's like, wow, this is going to be fascinating.
I don't expect it to go well. The question is then, what happens to the case? How do you proceed? Because, how does the entire thing not implode? If you can clearly demonstrate that she was out to enrich herself and her boyfriend by doing this. The entire thing is gone. Because that's your real motive. Because the question then would be, did you even care about winning the case?
Yeah.
Or was it about the paycheck?
Right.
And we've asked that question in terms of the political effect. Do they care about winning the case, or do they want to just drag it out till November 5th of this year? Well, in this case, now you've got a whole other motive. Hundreds of thousands of reasons.
Which would have continued. The paychecks keep coming in. Keep coming in the rest of the year.
And likely would have continued. If you look at a special prosecutor, likely would have continued even beyond the election if Trump wins November 5th. Yeah.
The judge's order would force her to address the accusations in televised court proceedings.
Oh.
Which could be embarrassing for the district attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And at worst, derail the investigation completely.
Well, because, again, the first question has to be, because it's a weak case legally, and you've assigned somebody with no experience.
Which you have to, and that's the question you ask.
Then
if you assign somebody with no
who's
experience,
also your boyfriend,
right, was the goal to actually prosecute Trump, or was it a political move to keep this in the news, and you didn't care whether you won or lost? You would politically, hopefully, damage him over a period of months and enrich yourself,
right?
In the meantime,
and raise your own profile.
Right.
If you just keep it up long enough to do the damage to Trump.
And when this first came out, you and I, when we said, okay, let's see if she responds by the next day, and there was no response.
Right.
And we went, whoa. And it took a few days, and finally she spoke at a church and said, this is all racism.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't deny anything.
No.
Just said racism. And we went, oh, boy. Because think about this. If you're a prosecutor and you know you've done nothing wrong,
right,
and you believe you have think about this.
You're out right away, which she wasn't,
right,
and he wasn't either.
And you believe you have a strong RICO case against the president, and you've done nothing wrong, and this isn't your boyfriend, and he is completely and totally qualified to be doing this, and everything is above board. You would have been out within an hour.
Yep.
With a statement saying this is completely and totally bogus. And she hasn't. All she said is, this is all due to racism.
Right. That's her only response.
And the thing is, we've been dealing with this for such a long time that when you don't have a defense, you just throw out the race card.
If I don't see someone at a podium, at least the following morning, if not that day, the following morning.
Right. But when you use the race card,
at that
point, to me,
well, when you didn't go to the podium, and the only thing you said was, and the only thing you did was throw out the race card.
Race card. It's like, okay,
especially,
that's the first indication to me that you don't have anything.
Right.
You don't have a defense.
You don't have anything,
and you don't know what your defense is going to be,
and you don't have a case.
Yeah.
Look, you look at the case, and it's clear overcharging. Clearly, they're overcharging here. And so you look at it and go, okay, well, politically motivated, and that in and of itself isn't against the law necessarily. Wait a minute. At least a massive conflict of interest here when you talk about enriching yourself based on a weak case. If her case was strong, was clearly demonstrated with facts, with evidence, material evidence that let us, where you could look at it and go, ooh, that doesn't look good for Trump. There would still be questions. But now, because you've got a shell of a case, now the question would be, my gosh, did you even care about winning the case, or was it about just bringing it so that you could enrich yourself and raise your profile?
Well, to use a RICO case, the problem with the RICO case, as we stated from the very beginning on that one, is a RICO case is used for the mob.
Yeah.
And, the vast majority is used for mob, used for a criminal enterprise where everybody is in there to make money by doing wrong things.
Right.
So in a RICO case, the leader may not know what his underlings are doing in a particular situation, but since they're all part of the criminal enterprise, you don't have to know everything,
right,
because your goal is to make money illegally, and you're part of that well-organized criminal enterprise.
Right.
The Trump campaign was not set up as a criminal enterprise.
Right.
That's why the RICO falls apart.
Right. Yeah.
So if they're trying to say, okay, we're prosecuting Trump and whatever it is, 15 other people, and these two people here broke the law with a voting machine or whatever. Well, that means Trump is guilty because he is part of the criminal enterprise, which was the campaign.
Right.
You can't make that case.
No.
Because the campaign was set up long before, and the campaign was set up to do what? It's a political campaign to win an election. There was nothing illegal to be done. If you're saying that, because, think about this. If you could use RICO here, could you imagine what you could use for the Hillary enterprise?
Oh, my gosh.
Because remember, they had talked about using RICO for that.
Right.
That was actually an enterprise that was set up. That
Trump's lawsuit against her, what was it, $20 million lawsuit against Hillary. Remember that?
Yeah.
It went away, but
right. They could because but that was actually it was again the campaign people knew about it.
yeah.
When you think they all knew about it, which then does that become a criminal enterprise at that point that they knew where the money was going and it was being used to create this lie and everything else? Now, we had said that was a RICO civil case that they were trying to bring.
Right.
And they couldn't even get to that point with the RICO civil case that was thrown out. This district attorney is trying to make it a RICO criminal case, which would even be harder to prove. The case was so weak that when you look at how weak the case is, and then you say, okay, what's the motivation why you have such a weak case to bring RICO charges here? Why? Oh, to enrich yourself.
Well, think about that, too, because, and I thought about this the other day. So you've got your boyfriend. The two main players in the prosecution process are very close. But if you're her, you need somebody that close to you. And why is that? Because if you go out in the field and you hire somebody with experience, they come back and go, this is weak. And I don't know that, because you walk through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You basically have to have somebody who is fully on board under your wing. Because he's her wingman. That's it. And he doesn't have the experience. She's directing all of this. She's controlling all of this. So that you don't go out and hire somebody with experience, because they would bring it back and go, I don't know that I want to put my reputation on the line for this. Well, her boyfriend doesn't really have a reputation to speak of. I mean, he's part of a law firm, but he didn't have a high profile. And typically, you would go out and, even if they weren't high profile, somebody with experience in this that could get the job done if it were a real case, if it were a strong case. Otherwise, they come back to you and go,
And that's why it takes you to what was the motivation for the prosecution.
Right,
then.
exactly.
Okay, politically we can make a point and hopefully weaken Trump, but that's one of the point. The other point is we can enrich ourselves.
Exactly.
I'll hire you. You're not qualified.
Right.
Nobody cares because all they care about is getting Trump.
Right.
Now, that's not what happened.
Right.
But when you start talking about the fact that you can enrich yourself with hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, then a lot of times critical thinking goes out the window.
Of course.
So that's what it gets down to. What was the motive behind it? Why did you do this?
Right.
Why did you hire him if he wasn't qualified?
Exactly. Yeah, this is horrible.
866-98-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And finally, another continuing resolution to take us to March. And the border negotiations, nothing there.
No.
And apparently getting rid of McCarthy hasn't changed anything.
Yeah, apparently. I'm shocked. I thought I'd be making a hell of a lot more money once he was gone.
Well, I will say this again to the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything if you don't have the numbers, if you don't win. And you don't win unless you communicate effectively to the American public.
Yes, you said it after the election in November of 22, the midterm. You said, okay, now it's about 24.
Yeah.
Because McCarthy being out doesn't change the makeup in the GOP makeup.
Actually, it does.
I was going to say, no. Actually, it does -1, and the others that are gone now as a result of that too, which is the problem. Well, wait a minute. What if somebody else decides not to run?
And that's the problem. You're going, what are you doing? What did you accomplish? Nothing.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.